Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So there are a couple of types of things, like we say when we are studying the fluid, let's say water, the fluid can be compressible and incompressible. I don't know if you know what are these things. So compressible and incompressible, that is a term that comes up in this course, these things. Compressible means when you, these things come mainly in hydrodynamics, but it's there in hydrostatics also. But the thing is, compressible means basically when the air density changes so much, not air, whatever is a fluid, this is in our case it's water, when the density changes a lot in the it's temporarily with time variation, the temperature, the density changes, we call it as compressible flows. And incompressible flows, the density doesn't change with time so much. Not so much, it doesn't change with time. So all the studies that we do are mainly by assuming that water is incompressible. So that is the meaning of what is in. But the thing is, actually, when you are studying aerodynamics, like if if any of you are taking a course in aerodynamics, you cannot assume that the airflow around the ship, around the aircraft is fully incompressible. It actually becomes compressible, basically because its speed of operation is very high. The airplane moves at very high speed, and the density of air is so low that especially if the aeroplane goes at what we call as Mach speed and all that, and when Mach number 1 and all that, the flow becomes completely compressible. So we don't have that. So naval architects, we stay on the ship, we stay on the water, and we have only incompressible flows. Then again, I don't know if you will be familiar, but we use terms like inviscid flows. Basically, this is representative of viscosity. There is something which we call it as viscosity. If you have done fluid mechanics, you will remember, or if you are doing fluid mechanics now, you will know. So there is something called viscous flows and inviscid flows and viscous flows. So we assume in this case that all the viscous flows are all the flows are inviscid. There is no viscosity. There is not much in viscosity, and that is how the hydrodynamics in naval architecture has developed. It's by assuming that the fluid has no viscosity. Then we say we don't deal with surface tension. You will know what is surface tension. That is completely gone. That is not assumed. And we, that I told you again before, we do not assume waves in these studies. In fact, it is a more advanced. If any of you are going to do a MS or a PhD in naval architecture, you will do this. You will deal with waves, and waves, the hydrostatics in the presence of waves, it modifies. So that we are not doing. For us, the water surface is plain. It is just a plain surface. It's a calm surface. Basically, usually when you have high winds, the water surface becomes wavy. So we do not assume that. We do not have that. And then another thing which is also very interesting is we assume that these floating bodies are all rigid. That is a term that we use. Probably I'm sure you wouldn't have heard of this. I think the other opposite of this is flexible. So what it means is that if the body itself deforms under the action of for example, you will see in case of there are some studies, like some people in our department itself work on that. When you have very thin, very thin structures, very long and very thin structures, like there are known as very long platform structures, or you might have seen, you might have seen that there are some in Japan, I think they have some runways, aircraft runways on the water. The airport itself is on top of the water in the ocean. So you will have these long runways. So you have a thin region, very long. So what happens is that when something moves over it, this thing starts deforming by itself, and such things are called flexible. We are not at all interested in that in this course. We are not at all going into that. So all our studies are about rigid bodies. But just so that you know what it is. That's all I just mentioned that. So these are some things we assume, and now let us go into what we need to study, what we call as Archimedes principle. This is where the whole study starts. Okay. So this is the main thing. Archimedes principle states that when a body is kept on water, okay, it displaces some fluid, and the weight of the fluid displaced, okay, how do you get the, let us assume something is floating like this. This is the underwater volume. You can say it in this fashion, let's see, but I'll explain what it is in a different way. A body immersed in a fluid, okay, is subjected to an upward force equal to the weight of the fluid displaced. That is the one of the definitions of Archimedes principle. But let us see what it means. Now this is the underwater volume. Okay, we are talking about the underwater volume. So the weight of fluid displaced. Fluid means water here. Weight of fluid displaced. You know what is displaced? You assume that this thing is kept in a bucket. How much water flows out? So like that, weight of fluid displaced. Weight of fluid displaced is equal to underwater volume. This thing, let's just call it del. Okay, let's not. This del. Okay, this del into density of water. So this is the weight of the liquid displaced, isn't it? The amount of water that will be moving out from this region will be equal to this volume. I mean, the volume of water moving out of this region will be equal to this volume, and the weight of that water will be the volume that is moved out into the density of water. So the density of water into the volume of water displaced is going to give you the weight of liquid displaced. And if this is floating, so what this says is that this weight of liquid displaced, the body experiences an upward force equal to this, like this. It experiences an upward force. It is not slanted. The slanting is just my drawing. It is like this. Okay, you have an upwards force. It has an upwards force. This force is known as a buoyancy force. This is known as a buoyancy force. The buoyancy force, okay, is equal to the weight of the liquid displaced, and if the body is floating, as you can see, the weight of the body will be acting downwards, the buoyancy force will be acting upwards. They will balance each other. Now, this is an interesting thing which I have seen in many classes. If I say that a body is floating freely in water, now I give you 4 choices. You are asked to select from that. I say the buoyancy is equal to the weight of the body. Okay, the buoyancy is equal to the weight of the body. Buoyancy is greater than the weight of the body. Buoyancy is less than the weight of the body. Three choices. I am not sure why, but many of the times students write buoyancy is greater than the weight of the body. You should remember, if you write that the buoyancy is greater than the weight of the body, this body will go up. Okay, I know what is the idea of thinking that why the body is at equilibrium if the buoyancy is greater than, you think that the weight will be balanced by the buoyancy, but that's not what will happen. If the buoyancy is more, it will push it up, so the body will go up. That is not happening. I'm assuming it's not happening. So if the body is just floating on water, the buoyancy is equal to the weight of the water. So these two things balance each other, and the body remains as such. Okay. So this is the Archimedes principle by basic definition. Now, what I would like to do is to give you a problem, probably, but you cannot do it. This is not possible to do it in the class, so I'll do it myself. But let me see. There are a couple of things which we say. Now we define. Along with this, it comes. It's just an extension of this. we say that there is something known as equilibrium. This is a term which we use very much in this course, equilibrium. You know what is equilibrium. So, and in this course, it's in any course, the equilibrium is used. There are usually three types of equilibrium. There are three types of equilibrium. Now, the first one is what we call as stable equilibrium. This also seems to sometimes confuse the students. You think equilibrium means what should I say? Properly stable. Stable. It doesn't have to be stable or stable equilibrium. In equilibrium, what is an equilibrium? A body is an equilibrium. That itself I'll state first. A body when do you really say that a body is in equilibrium? You say that a body is in equilibrium if sigma F, the net force acting on the body, is 0, and sigma M, the net moment acting on the body, is 0. That means the body is in both translational as well as rotational equilibrium. So if the body is in translational equilibrium, sigma F is 0. If the body is in rotational equilibrium, sigma M is 0. And we say that if your body is in equilibrium, if it's generally you say that it should be in equilibrium, then both sigma F should be 0 and sigma M should be 0. The net force and the net moment should be 0. This is what we mean by equilibrium. Then that is the first thing. And then what is stable equilibrium? Stable equilibrium means that once the body is in equilibrium, and once the body is given some perturbation, small movement, it comes back to its original position. Okay, like a simple thing, like a body is floating in water. Let's say a small ice cube is floating in water, and due to some reason, let's say some wind, very strong gust of wind came, and this ice cube went down a little bit. It means because of the wind, and then the wind stopped. So this came down a little bit, and then when it came down, you will see that an additional upthrust is produced. How is an additional upthrust produced? Again, cannot ask you. So what it is basically when it comes down, usually you will see that there is an increase in the underwater volume. The upthrust is related to the underwater volume. So the upthrust is related to the underwater volume, which means that as the underwater volume increases, the upthrust increases. So the upthrust increases and the body is pushed back to its original position. So weight push back. And this means as long as that exciting force is removed, the body tends to come back to its original position. This kind of equilibrium is what we call it as stable equilibrium. First thing, that is the stable equilibrium. Then second, we say there is something known as neutral equilibrium.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have a doubt. Like you told now that upthrust is related to underwater volume, right?
Yes. Yes.
So regarding that, buoyancy and upthrust are not equal.
No. Buoyancy and upthrust are the same thing.
Exactly.
When we say that buoyancy, it is the upthrust.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So there are two things basically. There is a weight of the ship and there is a buoyancy. That buoyancy, another name for buoyancy is upthrust. So this thing is same thing. So that is the first thing. And then we have the neutral equilibrium. Neutral equilibrium means the body is in equilibrium, all right. But when you give it a perturbation, then the body goes and stays at that point. So if it is like this initially, and I give a perturbation, it like this, I change it like this, then it remains like this. It doesn't come back to its original position. This is what we call as neutral equilibrium. Then the third one is what we call as the unstable equilibrium. So it is in equilibrium now, but when you perturb it, it goes away. It loses its equilibrium. So it is in equilibrium now. That's why we call it as unstable equilibrium. It is in equilibrium now, but the moment you perturb it from its current position, goes away from equilibrium. It capsizes, you can say. If the ship capsizes, at that point, it is due to some effect, it is at equilibrium. Let's say a very strong wind blows, the thing capsizes. That is known as the unstable equilibrium. Now, that is about force, moment, and basically Archimedes principle relates to forces. I've just explained what is Archimedes principle. That relates to forces. The one relating to moment, which will come later, is known as Stevin's law. That also will come to later, but this is just to mention it. Stevin's law. That is the thing relating to moments. That is the equilibrium corresponding to moments. Okay. Then what do we have? Okay, we can say a couple of things like this, like yes. So basically, the condition is the delta. So we can say that the upthrust, this is delta. Let's say this is the upthrust, okay, is equal to the weight of the ship if the body is floating, freely floating. That force floating we don't need, but it's not really necessary. The body is floating. Basically, that's all I'm trying to imply here. Body is floating. So delta, the upthrust, is equal to the weight of the ship. Delta is equal to W. Then this delta, is equal to gamma into del. Gamma is rho actually. This is used interchangeably sometimes. Gamma is known as the specific gravity. Basically, specific gravity into 1000 will give you the density in kilogram per meter cubed. Again, you have to be very careful in this course with this units. For instance, what I will see is that what you will see is that we do not use kilogram at all here in this course. Mostly, we deal with tons because it's a ship. There's no point dealing with it in kilograms. It's too huge. So we deal with it in terms of tons. A ton is 1000 kilogram. So basically, gamma is the density. Gamma is the density in tons per meter cube. Okay, in tons per meter cube, you have the density. That is gamma. So that we usually write like that. So here we have gamma into del equals W, the weight of the ship. Okay, so the weight of the ship is equal to the upthrust. This is the upthrust, or buoyancy is equal to W, the weight of the ship. Now, just to make it more complicated, you can write it like this. Okay, what I have done is CB into LBT. You have the underwater volume is, that the ratio of the underwater volume to LBT is equal to CB, the block coefficient. So this can be written in this fashion. We might need this later. So for the time being, you keep it. Then, okay. Then moments. Okay. Then we go into something else, slightly different. So from basically now we are beginning to. What I'll do is we will do 2 problems, I think, related to this Archimedes principle. Before we go into basically what we call as Stevin's law, what we can do is we'll do those 2 problems first. That's probably the best order. Now I sincerely hope this thing comes up. Let's read the first problem. You can see it now. Yeah. Hopefully you can read it also. It says a balk of timber 4 meter long. A balk doesn't mean anything. It is just a log of timber. A log of timber 4 meter long, 1.5 meter wide. Just a minute. Let me open it up here also. So the problem is this, it's given here, a block of timber 4 meter long, 1.5 meter wide and 1 meter deep. So its depth is 1 meter, has a relative density. Again, relative density is the same as specific gravity. So it is in the same, it is the same as tons per meter cube. So it is 0.75. Then they say there is a steel cube of side 0.5 meter and relative density 8, okay, is suspended beneath the timber, and the two float in salt water of relative density 1.025. So the salt water is having a relative density of 1.025, and the question is to calculate the draft of the timber bulk. So you have a bulk of timber, and below it there is a steel cube is suspended beneath it. So this I'll usually I make the students do it, but this time it's not possible. So let me do it. So basically there is some bulk of timber, okay. So there is some timber, and there is some timber, and below that there is some steel cube hanging. So let us do the problem. So what you have here is, your question is what it is to find the what was the question? Calculate the draft of the timber bulk. So you are asked to find out the draft of the timber bulk. So the timber bulk basically is not fully submerged. So draft of it is this. This is what you are asked to prove. Below that you are hanging a steel cube. It's just slightly to complicate the things. You have a steel cube, that's all. So basically, how will we proceed? So we will proceed like this. And we are not dealing with weight anywhere. Okay, we actually, the book keeps using the word weight, but it's actually using tons. Tons is basically a unit of mass. It is kilogram. It's not the weight of the ship. Weight in that sense multiplied by g. So mass of the floating body is equal to the mass of liquid displaced. Mass of the floating body is equal to the mass of the liquid displaced. Okay, so let us see what is the mass of the floating body. The problem is here. I'll see here, a bulk of timber 4 meter long and 1.5 meter wide and 1 meter deep. So you are given its dimensions. So what do you have? You have the mass of this timber plus the mass of this steel cube is equal to the weight of the liquid displaced, is equal to the volume of this into volume plus the volume of this into 1.025. 1.025 I think is what they have given as the weight of density of water. So relative density of water. So it comes like this. Mass of timber plus the mass of steel equals the mass of liquid displaced by the timber. This is the displaced, just think of it as displaced, plus mass of the timber displaced by steel. So now actually you should be able to do mass of the timber is what? It will be equal to 1.5 into 1 into 4 into mass. How will you get the mass? This is the volume of the timber. So first what you did was you got the volume of this timber into 0.75, which is its specific gravity, or it is its relative density, into 0.75. So that will give you that plus mass of steel, this one, the mass of steel is equal to how much? It is given as, it is a steel cube. Okay, so it is, what is the size of it? It's given as steel cube of size 0.5 meter. So the volume of the steel cube is 0.5 cubed. Okay, it is 0.5 raised to 3. 0.5 cube is the mass of the, it is the volume of the steel cube, and its relative density is 8. So into 8 will give you the mass of steel. Will give you the mass of steel. 0.5 cubed into what is this? 8, I think, no? 8 into 8. So this is the mass of steel is equal to the mass of liquid. This is probably what is more important. Displaced by, so 1.5. Now what is the mass of, so your question is how much is the draft? Okay, means how much of the timber is below the water. So let's assume that a D is below the water. So the volume of that underwater volume is equal to 1.5 into 4 into D. 1.5 is its length, breadth into draft. That is the underwater volume. Underwater volume of this plus underwater volume, which is mass. So what should I multiply it with? What density do I multiply it? It is actually the mass of liquid displaced. Okay, so there you multiply it with the density of water, relative density of water, which is 1.025. This is the only thing you have to be careful about. The left hand side talks about the mass of the floating body. Okay, the right hand side talks about the mass of the liquid displaced. So one is the mass of the floating body, the right hand side is the mass of the liquid displaced. And when you are using the mass of the liquid displaced, just remember that it is equal to the underwater volume of the body into the density of water. The underwater volume of the body into the density of water will give you the mass of water displaced or mass of the fluid displaced. And if you want to find out the mass of the body, you take the volume of the body into the density of the body. Basically, that will give you the mass of the body. So this density, this game with the density is like, the thing with the density is the only thing you have to be careful about here. Otherwise, it's very straightforward. It's very simple. Okay.
So
Yeah.
So in that question, mass of the floating body, it is like in the given figure, the complete body is not immersed, right?
Mass of the floating body, in this case, the total mass will be the mass of this timber, because see, the whole thing is floating. It doesn't matter whether it is below or up. It is still floating.
The whole timber thing is floating, or the whole timber plus steel one is floating?
The whole timber plus steel is floating. The whole thing is floating.
Then we'll not get it. Like, then how will we get the mass if the complete thing is floating? Then nothing is immersed, sir. Then nothing is immersed, right?
What do you mean by floating? When something is floating, there is something.
Yeah, it is.
That you are using. What is meant by floating actually?
Partially.
Then you are saying if everything is floating, then there is nothing.
Okay,
floating
yeah,
means you mean the thing is above the water.
I thought that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
Floating means part of that body is above the water, part of that body is below the water.
Yeah,
that is the meaning of floating.
Yeah.
Not that the whole thing is above.
Okay.
I understand. Yeah, but some ways of thinking. Like, so this is very simple. This is the water line here. Okay, so here this is water line WL. So part of it is above, part of it is below. The whole thing is floating. So this whole thing is now floating. So it is floating such that this much is below and this much is above. And so you have the mass of the floating body. You have to have the whole mass. The whole thing is floating and is equal to the mass of the liquid displaced. But remember, when you are talking about the liquid displaced, you need only the volumes under. You don't need the volumes above into the density of water, and that's not the density of the above water. I mean, the density of the body is not required. Okay. Now let us see this thing. This problem. Okay. So this is what the question was. Calculate the draft of the timber bulk. So that was the first question. Now let us take a look at the second question. It is also same thing only actually. There is a buoy. This is known as, I'll come to that. It is known as a buoy, B-U-O-Y. What do you usually do when you, in the oceans, when you want to measure certain things, like you will see that there are different organizations all over the world. In fact, these organizations measure the conditions of the ocean, like wave height, water temperature, water salinity. Salinity is the amount of water, salt in the water. Salinity, all these things they measure all the time. So for such things, you put something known as a buoy on the water. This buoy usually stays on the water. Sometimes it moves. Most of the time, it is to keep something afloat. So all these instruments to measure these things are kept afloat by the use of a buoy. So that's the meaning of this buoy is. So this buoy. So it says, let's see what it says. A buoy is used to float a mooring chain. In this case, there is a buoy floating, and on it, let's say the instruments are placed. We are not interested in that. That is not the question. A buoy is floating, and it is having a mooring chain. Mooring means a connection of any floating body to the ground using rope, cable, chain, anything else is known as mooring. So we do more. Obviously, you have seen everything that needs to remain at one place is mainly moored. So this is the mooring. So a buoy. So as you can see, what it says is that a buoy, a mooring chain. A mooring chain is being float, or it is being kept afloat by the help of a buoy. Now they are saying the buoy is cylindrical of length 4 meter, radius. So it's basically a cylinder of radius 0.75 meter and is to float half submerged. So it is floating half submerged, means half of the cylinder is outside the water and half of the cylinder is above the water. Now about the mooring chain. The mooring chain is made of steel of relative density 7.95 and has a mass of 0.15 tons per meter. So as I said before, no more kilograms, only tons. The mooring chain is made of steel of relative density 7.95 and has a mass of 0.15 tons per meter. Okay, that is given. Now the chain will be suspended in 10 meter of salt water. Now what is the meaning of this? What is the use of giving this thing? It's again very simple. The thing is that they are trying to say that the chain is 10 meter long, that it is connected from the buoy to the floor. So they are saying that it is in 10 meter of salt water, means that the chain is basically 10 meter long. That's all. Now basically the question is to find the mass of the buoy if the buoy is to be made of metal of relative density 7.5. Now let's take a look at this problem. Okay, so question remain, the problem is still the same thing. This is the buoy. Buoy is just something like this, a cylinder, just a simple cylinder, and part of it is outside the water, part of it is outside the water, and part of it is inside the water. So it remains like this, and somewhere from here there is a chain, and this chain is linked to the seabed, if you consider. So the length of this chain is given as 10 meters. Usually it is, this is the mooring. So you will get stuck actually, just a minute. Okay. So the question is the same thing. Mass of the buoy plus mass of the chain is equal to the liquid displaced by the mass displaced by the buoy So the problem becomes, what is the question? The question is to find the mass of the buoy, isn't it? Yeah. The question is to find the mass of the buoy. So let us call that as MB, mass of the buoy, plus mass of the chain is 10 is the mass length of the chain into, you are told that the mass of the chain is 0.15 tons per meter. So into 0.15 gives you into 10 will give you the where 10 is the length of the chain. So 0.15 meter by 0.15 tons per meter into 10 meter will give you the mass of the chain will be equal to, so this many tons, okay? You will see this word written there, T. It is not a variable or anything, it's just tons, it represents tons, is equal to, you are told that this buoy is okay, floating. It, as I drew there, it is floating such that half of it is under the water and half of it is above the water. So what does it, what do we get? So we say that it is equal to the mass displaced by the buoy. Well, how do you get the mass displaced by the buoy? You get it as the volume underwater, volume of the buoy that is under the water into density of water. Now, how do you get the volume underwater? It is half, the volume underwater is said to be the half the total volume of the buoy. What is the volume of the buoy? It is a cylinder. The volume of a cylinder is equal to pi r square h. So this into pi into r square is 0.75, I think is the radius, 0.75 square into h. Total length of the buoy. Buoy is how much long? It is must be good. 4 meter into 4 meter into, this is the only thing, these are the things that you need to be little careful. Remember, this half came here because only half of the buoy is under the water, and on the right hand side the mass displaced by the buoy is basically the mass displaced by the underwater portion of the buoy. It is the volume used to mass of the underwater portion of the buoy, which is that is the volume, and that you get by multiplying the underwater volume with this is the underwater volume of the buoy into the density of water, not the density of steel. Do not use that. If you get this concept right, then this whole chapter is a breeze. It's very simple. 1.025 plus you have to get the mass displaced by the chain. What is the mass displaced by the chain? It is equal to, the whole chain is under the water. Okay, the whole chain is under the water. So mass displaced by the chain would be volume of the chain into density of water. Now, how will you get this part? Be careful. Volume of the chain is equal to 10 into point. You should really tell me why I am doing this. 0.15, 10 into 0.15 divided by, what is this relative density? 7.95. So this is actually the volume of the chain. Volume of the chain is equal to mass of the chain divided by the density of chain. Okay, now this the mass of the chain, which is equal to the volume of the body. Mass of the chain divided by the density of chain gives you the volume of the chain. The whole volume of the chain is under the water, and multiplied by the density of water will give you the amount of water displaced by the chain. So this, if you understand why I am dividing by 7.95 and multiplying by 1.025, then the problem is solved. Otherwise, you are in trouble. That's all. So this is the equation. Now you solve for MB from that equation. When you do that, you get some 2.38 tons. So that is a question. So today I think I'll stop here.
So I have a doubt here.
Yeah.
So the chain is hanging, or it is tied? It is tied to the waterbed.
It is tied to the waterbed.
So then why we're considering the mass of the chain?
Or what you call as the basically you assume it's lying on the waterbed. I know what you're trying to, where you're coming to. It is just a very simple problem that is assumed that that is given to make sure that you know the Archimedes principle. Don't go into the other. You're saying that if it is fixed onto the ground, there will be a reaction from the ground, something like that. It's going in.
Yes, sir. There's tension in the wire.
That's not the problem. The problem is just to see this. Mass of the buoy plus mass of the chain is equal to mass displaced by the. You will know from looking at the problem what kind of depth to which you must go into to get into the. So you just assume it like this. The body usually, in real cases, when a buoy is there, this chain will be connected to the seabed, and there will be a very strong reaction force, or not reaction force. Basically, there will be a force there with respect to the ground. But in this case, you assume the problem is like this: there is a buoy floating, there is a chain hanging. The chain is just hanging. Okay, it just touches the top of the ground surface. Just touches that. So the height of that chain is equal to the height of the depth of the water column. So if you assume it only to that extent, then you can do the problem. Otherwise, that's not the this problem is not for the too much detail. It's a very simple problem just to show
Okay,
the
I understand that.
It's a simple problem to show the Okay, so that is what it is. Okay. So I think I'll stop here today. So what we'll do is we'll meet next Monday, and most likely I'll be trying to give a assignment on Monday. I don't know how to do that yet, as I told you. So some way we'll do an assignment, and every Monday or every 2 Mondays, I mean every one other Monday, we'll try to hold an assignment, and maybe we can have something like six or seven assignments at least we can have. Something we will try to do. So if there is no assignment, then it will be on Tuesday. So why I say that is you just read these things. This time it's very important that you don't keep anything for there is no last, right? There is no end semester. So you keep reading and keep doing the assignments and keep attending the classes. So with this I'll stop today. Let me see 1 minute.